on Prime Crime.
He was giving my 8-year-old too much attention. I had a bad feeling about him.
A monster lurking in the shadows.
You know how old they are? About 12, 13. You can sit a wine glass on her.
A crime so heinous it brought jurors and witnesses to tears.
I'm sorry, I have to take a break. Can I just have like 5 minutes?
Can a convicted killer get another shot at freedom?
He is going to be brutal with any victim. If he were out, I think he'd have more.
Hey everybody, I'm Jesse Weber and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. What you're about to hear is every parent's worst nightmare.
Okay, ma'am. What's your daughter's name? Her name's Cherish. And her last name? Perrywinkle with a P.
June 21st, 2013, Jacksonville, Florida. Rayne Perrywinkle and her 3 young daughters are shopping in a Dollar General store. The Perrywinkle family didn't have a lot of money, and Rayne couldn't afford to buy her 8-year-old Cherish a new dress. That's when someone took notice.
I looked to my right, and he was standing in the doorway looking right at us. He said, "You look like you have your hands full. I have a couple of little ones."
56-year-old Donald Smith is watching Rayne and the kids when he then offers to help them. He claims he has a $150 gift card to Walmart, and his wife can drive it to them.
He saw this window of opportunity where he would be able to use a weakness, financial insecurity, and he realized that he would be able to entice them with money to be able to get time with these girls alone.
Smith then even offers to drive them in his van to the Walmart, an offer that Rayne accepts.
It was dark. There were blinds on the windows. There was no seat in the middle, and the passenger seat was pushed all the way down.
At the Walmart, video surveillance shows Rayne and the girls shopping while Smith just looks on. And as each minute passes, there's still no sign of Smith's wife.
It's so ominous to see things like that because you almost want to reach out and try to change it in that moment. It's heart-wrenching because this is the point before which things will never be able to go back in time.
Later on, Smith suggests buying the family food from the McDonald's in the store. Again, Rayne accepts. It's at this point Cherish follows Smith to get the food.
There's nothing distressing about that video. He is not holding her hand. He is not pulling her arm. He is not dragging her by the hair. He is not pushing her. She is not resisting him. If all you had was that video, in this case, hey, that's her granddad, and how awesome is that he took her to Walmart.
But as this video shows, they don't stay in the store. Instead, Smith leads the 8-year-old outside to his van, where they get in and drive away.
911 Robinson. Hi, I'm at Walmart. I'm in turn. I think my daughter's been taken. What do you mean? Taken by a stranger. I can't find her. Okay, and she was last seen with this man? Yes, he said he was going to McDonald's and he hasn't been there because the store is closed right now. I had a bad feeling about him. Okay, how long have you been looking for you? When was the last time you saw your daughter? How long ago? About half an hour ago.
All protectors of children need to know that these predators are out there, and there is a level of blame when you entrust someone you do not know to be around your child who is defenseless.
I had a bad feeling. I thought, well, I feel like pinching myself because this is too good to be true. He was giving my 8-year-old too much attention. He wanted her to buy these really tall shoes that were women's shoes, and I told him no.
You know, listen, I know people don't like her. It was a bad decision, but think about it. She is vulnerable. She has no money. She is desperate, and she's manipulated. She's a victim, like Cherish is a victim.
I don't want him to kill her. should have told him no.
Despite Rayne's pleas on the 911 call, when police respond, they don't initially classify this as an abduction, rather a missing persons case. Authorities wouldn't even inform the media or issue an Amber Alert for at least 6 hours.
I don't think law enforcement actually believed her. This is my opinion. So as a result of law enforcement saying, hey, we're a little skeptical, we may not believe the mother's story in this case, I think they could have found him with Cherish sooner, and we do not know if that means she still would have been alive.
The next morning, police finally track down Smith as he's driving his van on the highway. They also receive a new call.
Hi, we're calling about a suspicious van over here, a white van. It was parked behind some bushes. It's not there anymore, but we don't know if he dumped anything because we heard a girl just got abducted from Walmart.
Authorities then find the worst, Cherish's dead body lying in the marsh of a creek.
This depraved indifference to life and the clear ability to just injure someone who is so defenseless and small just shows a level of sociopathy that we actually come to know is, in fact, the way Mr. Smith is.
I had a strange feeling about him when I first met him. He took her to the dressing room twice, and I was hoping that she would be okay.
8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle is found dead the morning after being abducted at a Walmart in Jacksonville, Florida. The autopsy would reveal she had been repeatedly sexually assaulted and then strangled to death. Donald Smith is arrested and later charged with first-degree murder, rape, and kidnapping.
It shows me that, number one, it was someone who was absolutely enraged, and number two, it was someone who had done this before.
What's even more disturbing, Smith is a sex offender with a long criminal career, arrests ranging from burglary to battery to crimes against kids. Yet on the day of Cherish's kidnapping, he was out free.
Every instance where he could have been incarcerated or hospitalized for long periods of time, he seemed to skate by and get out. And the individual reasons may have made sense for each individual case, but at some point there should have been a totality of the circumstances to say he's been given this opportunity and this opportunity, and he is a perpetrator that's going to reoffend. He shouldn't be out on the street. I almost feel like he had 9 lives, and that's not a good thing. It took the murder of an innocent 8-year-old for those lives to catch up with him.
He became sexually aware at 5 years of age. He started to engage in voyeurism by 10 years of age. He had a traumatic brain injury with loss of consciousness and scalp laceration at 9 years of age. This is his historical behavioral issues that I would call concerning.
Smith's trial began on February 12, 2018, over 4 years after Cherish's death. The prosecution's first witness, Rayne Perrywinkle.
What did he say to you when you walked out the front door of the Dollar General?
If you really want that dress, I'll get it for you. He got snappy with me because I wouldn't get in the van.
I think part of what troubles people about her testimony is her honesty. Why did you ever let her around him?
I felt foolish after that. I thought I was just being paranoid.
She's heartbroken, she's devastated, but also she's honest.
Ma'am, when your daughter followed after this defendant towards McDonald's, was that the last time you ever saw your daughter alive?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
While the prosecution would present a strong case, the defense did a curious thing. In their opening statement, they seemed eager to fight and even cast blame on Rayne.
Do not make any fixed opinion at this moment.
But when it came time for Smith's team to cross-examine Rayne, Smith says no. In fact, the defense chose not to call any witnesses nor offer a closing argument.
Oddly, if you blame Rayne, it doesn't really help your case because you're essentially saying that she was so negligent that she allowed such a crazy killer like your client to then have contact with the children. So it doesn't really advance the theory very much. It was really tone deaf, insensitive, and they backed off.
We would learn a lot more about Smith, including things he never intended to be revealed.
You know how old they are? About 12, 13. You can see their wine glass on her.
At Donald Smith's trial for the kidnapping, rape, and murder of 8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle, emotions ran high, including with jurors crying. In one of the most dramatic moments, when Dr. Valerie Rao, the medical examiner, took the stand, even she broke down.
Yes, so what we do is, I'm sorry, I have to take a break. Can I just have like 5 minutes?
Do you want a 5-minute break?
Just testament to the brutal nature of this crime. It's an 8-year-old. Anybody's sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate about a child, but here this medical examiner is having to testify as to all the gruesome details and how horrific, and probably the worst the medical examiner's ever seen in Jacksonville, Florida.
Before prosecutors finished up their case against Smith, they delivered one more blow. They played secretly taped conversations between him and another inmate in jail.
Man, when you look at this girl, you're like, whoa. You know how old they are? About 12, 13. You can see their wine glass on her.
He's a perpetrator. This is what this man does, and he's never going to stop, in my opinion.
That's right in my alley, right there. That's my target area right there. That's what I go after. Well, you have fun with that one. Yeah, I like to run into her at Walmart.
It is unbelievable that in facing these types of charges, he would continue to speak so freely like that in jail. And here's the thing, it really shows that he was intending to do this, that this was something he planned to do. He is attracted to young girls and to committing violence upon them.
The jury sealed Smith's fate. It took them only 15 minutes of deliberations to come back with a finding of guilty across the board. Then it became a question of whether Smith should spend the rest of his life in prison or be put to death. We heard from various experts discussing everything from Smith's brain abnormalities to his history of himself being sexually abused, all as possible mitigating factors.
His imaging studies show profound atrophy. When I was looking at Mr. Smith's abnormal behavior, there were, we can say, 2 general categories of neurologic illness. One was a neurodegenerative disease, such as CTE or frontotemporal dementia. And then the other was a various form of epilepsy. He has what would be called a orbitofrontal syndrome, hypersexuality, disinhibition, inability to control inappropriate impulses, poor judgment, recidivism. Saying he can't control any impulses, that's too strong. I'm unable to say that. It's a balance thing.
Just because somebody has had mental health problems or even neurological problems, it doesn't mean that they do not appreciate the severity or the consequences of their actions.
But what we didn't predict was the testimony of a woman who says Smith tried to kidnap her when she was 13.
He told me to get the in the van.
Did the defendant chase after you in that van?
He did.
I was horrified. That kind of terror for anyone, much less a 13-year-old girl, I can imagine the trauma.
I was slipping and I was so afraid I was gonna fall out and he was gonna find me. He said, I know you're in there, you little bitch, and I'm gonna find you.
It's so similar and it was so long ago. And that's what's such a problem. And it really speaks to gaps in the criminal justice system. It speaks to what could we have done. It should never have taken this long.
Once again, the jury sided with the government and recommended death, with Judge Mallory Cooper ultimately imposing the sentence.
I broke out crying. But no, it's not justice. The legal system works the way it works. But he's been living for 5 years after the death of my daughter. And he's going to be living until the death penalty is either done or whatever the case may be. And that's not justice. She didn't get that option to live those many years.
You would think this would be the end of Donald Smith's story. It isn't.
Oh no, is that I snapped.
After Donald Smith was convicted of the brutal rape and murder of 8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle and sentenced to death, the world learned about another side of the killer. Recorded jailhouse conversations between Smith and his mom came out.
This is way bigger than anything. It's way bigger than Anthony. It's way bigger. There's people out there that you would think that don't have a damn clue about anything that's going on right around them, right beside them, and they know me well.
What's disturbing is how involved and excited he was about the attention that he was getting. And so we can see this collateral almost benefit that he is getting from this.
Smith actually denies being a child molester.
How do you make a girl? I don't view children as sexual objects.
That is bizarre. Obviously, that is laced with complete dishonesty, but it might just have been something that he was telling his mom, or that he doesn't want to be perceived that way in jail, because child molesters in jail, of course, are exposed to a lot more violence by fellow inmates, and they also are not given a lot of priority by the jailers.
In one of the most shocking admissions, he suggests that as a registered sex offender, he had no choice but to kill Cherish when she followed him.
That's what I told Harry. He says, man, he says, what she got in your van, you were just, all I knew was, you gotta go. You have to go. I don't care how, you gotta go.
Blaming the victim, I think, is how he rationalizes in his sick brain how it's okay and why it's okay. Oh, it wasn't my fault. It was her fault. She made me do it, this little 8-year-old girl, and I'm a sex offender, and it's her fault, not mine. I think that's a sick way of rationalizing it.
Then Smith appears to strategize a mental health defense, even asking his mom for a copy of a manual on psychiatric disorders.
That's how manipulative he is, that he's manipulating his mother to get these things so that he can do the best he can to get out of jail. The reality is he is going to be brutal with any victim. If he were out, I think he'd have more.
At the end of the day, though, this case has always been about the loss of an innocent young girl.
She was, wow. It's hard to explain it. You'd never see her unhappy. She was never miserable. She never had any signs of anything. She was just smiling, just the biggest smile on her face every time you've seen her. And I know if you talk to people in Jacksonville, they'll tell you the same thing. To have an 8-year-old just be taken out like this is just unreal. I just hope they remember her smiling face and the fact that she had a good life ahead of her and would have probably been very successful at something. But we'll never know now.
Hey, so we're going to get you right back to Prime Crime in just a minute, but before we do, I want to call out one of our partners, our sponsors, who helps make this show happen. And by the way, we actually use their services for our own research. It's called Truthfinder. Truthfinder is one of the largest public records search services in the United States, and given our content, maybe it makes sense to know a little bit more about the people in your lives, right? So you go on the website, truthfinder.com, you type in a name, and within minutes and a paid subscription purchase, you can access unlimited reports that could include information like phone numbers, location history, criminal and traffic records. Also, if you type in an address within a report, it can show you registered sex offenders that may live in an area. And right now, you can get 50% off of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/LCPrimeCrime. On Prime Crime.
Chickasaw County 911.
Ambulance sent out here.
It's a scene straight from a nightmare.
What I took away was the pain and the trauma of the first responder. That person's life is never going to be the same again.
And all eyes on a concerning couple.
Were you at any time during someone's life aware that was a condition of incident?
No. Zach said that it's not my fault.
I didn't really even challenge Cheyenne in the interview. We had no idea it was far worse than that.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. A death in an Iowa home leads to many questions and a horrifying outcome.
Chickasaw County 911.
Ambulance sent out.
It's August 30th, 2017 in Iowa. Zachary Keene, a father of 2 young children, calls 911 and reveals a terrifying discovery.
Okay, what's going on?
Around 9, my girlfriend went to feed our son, and then about 11 or 11:30, she went to check on him, and he was gone.
Gone meaning?
He died.
It's this statement that would begin the investigation into the death of 4-month-old Sterling Keene, who would be found dead in his swing.
What I took away was the pain and the trauma of the first responder. That person's life is never going to be the same again after seeing that close up and having been someone as a former prosecutor who went to a plethora of crime scenes, right? But to see a helpless child in that state is just a whole new level.
She went to check on him, hadn't heard him cry or whatever, and he passed away.
Typically, if a person is going to dial 911 after their child is dead, they would be panicking or they would be in shock. In this case, Zach acted what I like to call desperately casual. And this is a red flag. His neighbor was actually the one that had to tell him to call 911 because he was just standing outside of their apartment complex. So this was not rational decision making. When responders showed up that Zachary was muttering, he was casual in his demeanor, he was quiet, there was no tear to be seen. It was later argued that he was in shock in this moment, but shock doesn't look like this.
It's particularly interesting what Keene says about the potential cause of death.
I don't know if it's sudden death syndrome or what.
Zach's comments about sudden infant death could be a viable consideration. Whenever somebody loses a child, especially a young child like Sterling, that's something that we would consider.
Police, though, need more answers. Hours after Sterling's death, Special Agent Chris Calloway spoke with Cheyenne Harris, Keene's girlfriend and the mother of Sterling, as well as the couple's daughter, 2-year-old Nala.
Do you remember putting Sterling in the swing?
There was a detachment when talking about Sterling. She lit up when she was talking about her daughter, when she was talking about her dog. But the comments about Sterling, there was maybe a coldness.
Every time he crapped, it was straight liquid.
Okay.
I actually had a diaper where there was no crap in it, and I was amazed.
Yeah. How could you tell when he was uncomfortable?
Pause, I guess.
Okay.
That's pretty much all we could do.
Harris explains the moments leading up to finding Sterling dead.
So Nala wakes you up around noon. What happens next?
I got up and changed her diaper, went to the bathroom myself, fed her, and then I got her set up in the living room to watch a movie for a little bit.
What did you feed her? Do you remember?
difficulties.
That's okay.
And I started thinking, it's been a while since I heard from Sterling.
What happened next?
I know I've been found him. And then went and woke up Zach.
Calloway goes through different possible scenarios.
No illegal drugs in the house or no medication that you know of that Sterling could have gotten into or found or ingested. Okay.
Initially, you go into these child death investigations with an open mind to it could be something medical, it could be something criminal.
While crossing off these potential options, what does become clear is something feels a bit off.
When you found Sterling, did you take him out of the swing, or is he still in the swing?
He was still in the swing.
Okay. Then what happens after you get Zach?
After some freaking out and having no idea what to do or say, he called the ambulance.
I don't think she really understood the full gravity of what she was facing and what had happened to her child.
Coming up, new details come to light that change everything.
But I didn't know the scope and magnitude of Sterling's condition. And so she's describing these as very matter of fact.
Zach said that it's not my fault.
Is it unusual to go that long without checking?
In 2017, Iowa police are called to the residence of Zachary Keene and his girlfriend Cheyenne Harris. They find the dead body of the couple's 4-month-old son Sterling lying in his swing. It's not immediately clear how Sterling died, yet when Harris speaks with Special Agent Chris Calloway, some of the pieces of the puzzle start to fill in.
Well, just tell me, Sterling's schedule.
He normally was able to sleep through the night with no problem.
Okay. Where was Sterling?
In the next bedroom in the swing.
Okay. So Sterling was in the swing, but the swing wasn't moving at that point. Okay.
Is it possible that this couple just accidentally forgot about their baby son in his swing?
Would that have been, around what time would that have been when you got him the bottle and changed him?
I'm honestly not sure what time.
When was Zach's last contact with Sterling?
I'm not sure.
How exactly could that happen? This becomes all the more complicated when you dig into the lives of Harris and Keene.
Overall, Zach and Cheyenne, they were just an irresponsible couple. They would do meth together. They came together based on their drug use, not love. She continued to use methamphetamine after Sterling was born. When Sterling was born, they found methamphetamine in his blood. Drug use in general affects a person's decision-making and can make it more difficult for a person to think clearly. It can increase distractibility, reduce motor speed. Overall, when you're saying yes to using meth, you're saying no to being a good parent.
After everything that's happened, and all I can think about is that.
Yeah, well, and you're juggling a ton of stuff. I mean, on a lot of things going on.
Cheyenne has been a mother before, and so she should have known how to care for her child. Zach made anywhere between $35,000 to $45,000 a year. He found money to spend on methamphetamine, but did not have the money allegedly to spend on the special formula that their baby needed. Their friends would come over, but they had no idea that they even had a baby. So overall, these were two people who were not proud to have a small baby.
Does he help you at all with the child care? Zach?
No, he doesn't have the stomach for diaper changing.
His viewpoint was very much that the man goes out and goes to work and does not have anything to do with the home front. Like basically, I'm bringing home the money, you take care of the child and you take care of the house. And that's why he was just not engaged when it came to parenting young Sterling.
The issues in their parenting became even more apparent when we learned about Sterling's birth during a party.
Spend all day trying to go to the bathroom. Cramps got worse and worse and worse. Pushing feels not the way that it normally does. I go to stand up and there's a hole and I'm like, oh my God, there's a head. So I sit back down on the toilet, scream for Zach. He came out in the water and he was just, eyes popped open and he was just staring at me.
Oh.
We wrapped him up and we waited for the ambulance.
The mother literally didn't realize she was in labor and she was at a party and literally gave birth in the bathtub of the people's house. Should you have been at the party? Let's kind of start with that. And then, you know, secondly, obviously that lack of awareness about your body and the fact that you're, you know, going into labor, you know, that's already setting the child up for a very problematic life.
I can't help but feel that I could have done something differently, or that I should have checked on him more.
Is it unusual to go that long without checking?
He always lets me know when he needs something, so I didn't think anything of it.
Sure.
When we return, we'll get an answer as to what actually happened to Sterling.
I didn't really even challenge Cheyenne in the interview. I didn't know the condition of Sterling at the time. We had no idea. It was far worse than that.
By the way, as we put these prime crimes together, I am always fascinated by the legal arguments that are put forward at trials. I'm an attorney. What can I say? But I tell you, it definitely shows you the importance of having a great lawyer, right? And honestly, how could I talk about that without calling out our partner, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, a terrific sponsor of ours. Look, if you should get injured, this firm with over 1,000 attorneys may be who you want in your corner. They have an impressive track record of verdicts and settlements in the multi-millions. They offer their clients a dedicated legal team, specialists, paralegals, investigators. There's no upfront fee. You only pay them if you win. And this whole process can be done straight from your smartphone. It is so streamlined. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/primecrime.
We're going to be looking at your house and we're going to be taking things from you guys. And
So this is going to go on for a while.
but the idea is to get you guys the truth and the answers that you need.
In 2017, Zachary Keene and his girlfriend Cheyenne Harris tell police they were shocked to find their 4-month-old son Sterling dead in his swing. Harris would explain to investigator Chris Calloway that she fed Sterling.
How many feedings would Sterling have a day?
But normally it would be 3 or 4 of the 8-ounce things.
Okay.
And Sterling's room seemed to be fine.
How warm was the room?
It was comfortable. It didn't seem too hot to me.
Yet it soon becomes clear that things aren't adding up and that the couple, who struggled with substance abuse, hadn't checked on Sterling for quite some time.
I didn't have any preconceived notions about what had happened. And as she started talking, I was just left with that gap in time. So we're looking at 19 hours with no care of a newborn.
If you were to predict what the doctors will find, what do you think?
Zach keeps saying something about sudden death syndrome.
Okay.
Overall wasn't very well thought through. This just doesn't add up with sudden infant death syndrome.
There's something else to know about Sterling's death, something that would make this case stand out from many others. Sterling wasn't just found dead in his swing, but his room was in fact extremely hot and smelled of urine. And one of the most disturbing revelations, the infant's diaper was filled with maggots.
Sterling was taken to our state medical examiner's office where an autopsy was done, and cause of death was denial of critical care, and the manner of death was considered homicide.
He, I believe, was an entomologist who spoke extensively about, the fact that the flies and the maggots that were on baby Sterling's body, he was able to track back and say, listen, based on where the eggs were in their development, how the flies were in their development, we can say that, this had been going on and this child had been in this state for close to 2 weeks. How did the child stay in a swing for 2 weeks without diaper being changed, anyone checking on him? That's just beyond the pale.
According to the autopsy, Sterling died from a combination of malnutrition, dehydration, and an E. coli infection. Ultimately, both Keene and Harris were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and child endangerment.
I think that drug use, along with mental health, contributed to this, but I think it goes deeper than that with this couple. There is an absolute lack of empathy towards their child. You could argue that there's some disorder or that they're disturbed mentally, but there's also an element of evil here. It takes conscious effort to do this.
Up next, Keene and Harris each go to trial and try to convince jurors they're not murderers.
Did you know that Sterling had not been changed for some time?
I did not. No.
Did you want to see Sterling in pain?
Of course not. No.
Did you want your son to die?
I did not.
How has Sterling's appetite been the last day, couple days? Their feedings? Okay.
In Iowa, parents Zachary Keene and Cheyenne Harris are facing murder and child endangerment charges in connection with the death of their 4-month-old son Sterling. Forensic evidence, including the presence of maggots in the infant's diaper, suggests Sterling hadn't been fed nor changed in 2 weeks and was left to die in his swing. The couple were tried separately. First up was Keene.
Little Sterling couldn't feed himself. He couldn't change his diaper. He was vulnerable as only an infant can be. The evidence in this case will show by his actions, he directly caused Sterling's death. He told the dispatcher that his son had died of SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. That's not what happened in this case. This was not an accident. That was a cover story concocted by this defendant to cover the awful truth.
And he's going to talk about the evidence. Why this is a tragedy, but not a crime. And we're going to ask you to return a verdict of not guilty.
In a case with such horrid details, many wondered how could the defense explain this away? Well, Zachary Keene himself tried to do just that when he took the stand.
You said several times in cross-examination that you put your trust in the wrong person. Who is that person that you trusted?
Cheyenne Harris, the mother.
Were you at any time during Sterling's life aware that that was the condition he was in?
No.
You knew that he was not being fed. What would you have done?
I would have fed him, for sure. I had trusted her judgment. I mean, look at my daughter. She's very healthy, and so I trusted her.
He totally was blaming her and being like, I trusted the wrong person. At the end of the day, it's both of you. Because you're both the parents, and you both live in this tiny house. Him trying to blame her and her trying to blame him just made the jury more enraged.
State of Iowa versus Zachary Keene, verdict form, count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree. Count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of child endangerment causing the death of a child.
Then there was Cheyenne Harris's trial.
That this is not a case where the parent, Ms. Harris, lacked resources or was an inexperienced parent. The other child in the home, her name is Nala. The evidence will show that she was healthy, in contrast to Sterling. In contrast to Sterling, she was properly clothed and clean and bathed. She was properly fed. That child's mother, Cheyenne Harris, failed in her responsibility as a parent. She failed little Sterling. She violated the trust that Sterling placed in her as her mother.
You're going to wonder what kind of monster could do something like this. The monster in this case is mental health. The monster in this case is depression, postpartum, substance abuse. She's not evil, and this case is not murder.
It was an extremely difficult case to try.
I think it was a situation where Cheyenne was suffering from postpartum depression, as well as substance abuse, and then adding in a father who wasn't claiming this baby. And so I think that's why the older child, Nala, was cared for, and the younger child was kind of just left to the side, and it just spiraled down from there.
Certainly had evidence of the use of methamphetamine, a prolonged use of methamphetamine, meth causing that disconnect. And you lose your understanding of time. It shows that she was really disconnected from reality.
They didn't have anything to show that she had actual hate for this child or any reason to suspect that she wanted the baby to die.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of child endangerment causing the death of a child.
We were hamstrung by Iowa's felony murder rule as it relates to a certain form of child endangerment if it's proven that they don't have to prove premeditation. And what that did is it gutted our ability to argue anything along the lines of specific intent. They don't like the felony murder rule. Murder should be reserved for the worst of the worst. And Cheyenne is far from that.
Both Harris and Keene were sentenced to life in prison. And at the time of this taping, each of their appeals have been shot down.
It's never going to bring Sterling back. It's never going to diminish the horrendous, miserable last days of his life. But you can hold Zach and Cheyenne accountable, and in a small case, prevent this from ever happening again. It's tough to work these types of cases, but it is important that the truth comes out.